Uh, Hi, Nancy. We're on.
We're on. Let's daydreaming there for a second. Good morning, Katie.
Hi. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. So, welcome everyone to Nancy's Nourishing Kitchen and Eat Well. What is it? Eat Well, Not Crazy, or
Easy.
Eat Well, No Crazy. That's what it is. Eat Well, No Crazy.
Right.
And this is a segment that I'm very excited about, but we generally talk about how to go ahead and have great food without a lot of the guilt and really healthy food, especially now when a lot of people are stressed. And I like the word stressed because stressed spelled backwards is desserts. And today we're going to be talking about desserts.
We are.
So I love that, Nancy. So what do you got for stressed or for desserts today?
Well, we're going to be sharing some recipes later on the website, but we're going to talk about a fruit crisp. It's now really going to be fruit season on Long Island, and a chickpea blondie. And both of these recipes are made with either coconut sugar or maple syrup as opposed to refined white sugar. Chickpeas in the chickpea blondies add protein and fiber as opposed to the straight up sugar brownie that you normally get. So everything will be a little more blood sugar balanced, a little healthier, and still taste delicious.
Oh, come on, Nancy. Seriously, chickpeas? Are you
Seriously,
kidding me? Really?
I
I
am not
mean,
kidding you.
we're talking about chickpeas, like chickpeas that are, garbanzo beans. Seriously, this is stuff that we normally put in our salad. Are we really going to be really going to enjoy a chickpea blondie?
You definitely will. And it does not taste like chickpeas at all. So it provides the density that all the eggs and the sugar or the cream or whatever you may want to put in a brownie or a blondie with all the good stuff. And again, Patty, had mentioned sugar and stuff. That fiber will balance out your blood sugar as opposed to just having white flour and white sugar. So seriously, and they taste delicious.
Okay, so balance out your blood sugar. Now you're starting to talk. You're starting to talk my language a little bit, and we start talking about sugar and stress. One of the things I'm aware of is that when we are a bit stressed, we may run to the sugar. Is that not a good thing for you? And what kind of happens in that process of being stressed? I'm interested because we have emotional eating and mindless eating, and you're really talking about being a little bit more mindful. Why?
Well, um, we'll get a little sciencey for a
Okay,
second.
good.
Um, when you're stressed, you're activating your sympathetic nervous system, and that's your fight or flight response. And that's when your body just really looks to survival mode and really wants to just preserve itself. And if you're not feeling well emotionally, even you want something that's going to make you feel good. And we end up going towards those comfort foods, those sugars. I mean, it's all the way it works in the body. Um, when we're stressed, we could be uneasy, nervous, even just unhappy or disconnected, which is so common right now in our COVID-19 world. So you're really looking for comfort food. Sugar makes us feel good. It ignites all those, feel good receptors in the body. But when we have conventional sugar, and it's not bad to want it because we're kind of programmed to want sugar. But when you have conventional sugar, like, an Oreo or a regular piece of milk chocolate,
Mhm.
your blood sugar spikes, you feel good for a little while, and then you crash.
Mm.
So there are ways to have healthy desserts and feel good emotionally. And a lot of those cravings are not even physical. They're really emotional cravings. You can have something sweet and not totally wreck your body. You can keep that kind of fight or flight system in balance, more
Mm.
relaxed, right? That parasympathetic nervous system, the other one, the good one.
Okay. All right. So that's more like the rest digest, right? That's like kind of like we get, it's sort of, I kind of think about it like after a big turkey, like you have a big turkey and turkey is filled with tryptophan.
Right.
And tryptophan activates serotonin or melatonin in the brain, which really is serotonin's like the relaxation stuff. So you get really kind of like sleepy and you feel kind of easy, and
Hmm.
and really where sugar comes in is sort of like the, it gets you all wired, right? It
Absolutely.
makes you feel like you want to run somewhere.
Right. That
So so
fight,
you're
fight or flight. Yeah.
fight or flight. So your point I think is really good. What we really want is we want more of that feel good stuff and less of that want to run somewhere and go ahead and climb the walls.
Right.
Okay,
Exactly.
good. Good. I like that. So that's the parasympathetic nervous system is
That's
what
right.
okay. So
Parasympathetic.
okay. So go ahead.
No,
Sorry.
that's the relaxed branch. Exactly.
All
That's what
right. All right. Is this the end of the science lesson now?
yeah, pretty much. I don't want to get all too techy. I started to write down all the hormones. I said, nah, not really necessary.
I like that. I like that. Okay,
keep,
good.
keep it simple. Keep it simple.
Good. So now we got a diet. We're cutting down on the sugar, but again, back to the chickpea thing. I mean, are we still going to have some flavor? And how do we wind up doing that? What really helps us to do that? And is it the same? Does it feel the same to us? Because a recipe free of refined sugars. I mean, we grew up with sugar. As a matter of fact, I know that was my major treat growing up. Someone gave me, a can of a can of those milk duds,
Mhm.
and that was like the biggest thing in the world. I love those milk duds. My goodness, they were
Oh,
so good.
they were good. You could chew forever with those things. Exactly. Sugar and candy and cookies and ice cream are always a treat for us. And
Uh-huh.
sugar is still sugar, whether you're going to use white sugar or maple syrup or honey or coconut sugar. It's still sugar in the body, but the less refined stuff is just a little better for the body. So there's no such thing as a super healthy dessert. I kind of like to think of them as healthy-ish desserts, or you can have desserts that have healthier ingredients in them, and they don't take a toll on your body as much. So, enjoy them. Think of dessert, as a treat, as always, but not as a restriction or not as a reward. So, some people will say, I'm going to go out and exercise and then I'm going to reward myself with the dessert. Just enjoy it, and you don't need a lot. Just have a little bit.
Mm.
But this, like in these chickpea brownies, right? Like blondies, there is a can of chickpeas in them. That's going to provide the density in the brownie, the chew feel that you get in a brownie. But chickpeas are wonderful. So you have protein and fiber, and we talked about it at different segments. When you have fiber with anything, it just slows down the release of the sugar in the body. So again, you're not going to get the spike and you're not going to get the crash. So it's going to be a little more even. In the chickpea blondie recipe is some almond butter, which is a healthy fat and also more healthy protein. And there's fiber in that. You can use peanut butter, cashew butter, sunflower butter if nuts are a thing for you. So there are lots of things in here. Maple syrup. I have almond flour here. You can sub oat flour. You can use regular white flour if that's all you have. And dark chocolate chips, because we did talk about the health benefits of dark chocolate. And Keith, you said before you like the cacao, which is
Oh, it's great.
slightly more bitter, but you can use that too. So there's lots of substitutions in this, and you throw everything together. And I'm telling you, somebody call me and tell me that they don't like it after they make it.
I like the way it sounds, and certainly you make it sound even better, just by describing it. So with these recipes that are free from refined sugar, what we wind up doing, and the flours, what you wind up doing is, I understand, we put in more fiber. This way it slows down the metabolism of the liver to slow down the actual metabolism of the sugar. So we get energy longer as opposed to spiking. It winds up even further because you have that fiber in there. It doesn't turn into fat, so we don't wind up with adrenal overload because of the sugar coming in. Our adrenal glands go crazy, right?
Right.
And then what we wind up doing is you wind up adding in your dark chocolate, some where you get your nutrients, your antioxidants. You talk about coconut sugar, maple syrup, maple crystals, maple sugar maple sugar is still sugar, but it's less refined. And then you said oats, almond flour, and then you had some other things. So Maybe we could talk a little bit about that, because I think in the process when we cook like the chickpea blondies, a lot of people may be used to just using regular flour. And you had said to me that you didn't need to do that. You could use oats. Is that true?
That's absolutely true. So, and you don't even need to buy oat flour. So many people will have rolled oats in their house for oatmeal or whatever else. So you can buy oat flour, but either if you don't want to use white flour, or if you don't have almond flour, or if you have a nut allergy, just take oats and put them in your blender and grind them up. And then all of a sudden you now have oat flour. And because we're not using regular flour in this recipe, we're not developing gluten. So you're not really so worried. I mean, brownies don't really rise, say, like a cake anyway. So they're always more dense, but you don't have to worry about that interaction with the gluten, which causes the fluffiness, say, in baked goods. So this is really, you know, it's a blondie because it's not all chocolate and you're just mixing the chips in as opposed to a brownie. So, but that white flour is refined and you do not need it, especially in something like this.
And it sounds to me also like with this kind of a dish, you'll also get a little bit more protein.
Yeah.
While you're at it, it's not just about having a piece of meat or something like that. You can get something out of here, especially with the almond butter, right?
Well, with the almond butter and the chickpeas, I mean, there are two great sources of plant protein that are satisfying and healthy. So, you know, there's a third of a cup plus a little more maple syrup in this recipe. And, you know, the dark chocolate chips really don't have sugar. So you are getting sugar in it because you want to balance out the sweetness, but you're still getting all the fiber and the healthy fat and the protein that's going to cause that even blood sugar.
Wow. And I know what, from a cultural viewpoint, like how hooked we are on getting our protein. You know, everything has to have protein, you know, and then of course, you know, I have to stay away from the carbs, and, you know, desserts are like a taboo because, you know, they just don't have any protein, or they too much carbs, or they're just not good for our blood sugar. So with this, it sounds like you're getting lower blood sugar, keeping your blood sugar low, you're upping your protein, and you're getting some complex carbs rather than the simple carbs, because they really don't do anything in terms of the metabolism. They don't metabolize as well. They go straight through the liver, and then all of a sudden that creates fat and, you know, obviously insulin problems, right?
Well, exactly, because the liver really is, I always say it's the playmaker in the body. My daughter, in one of her science classes in high school, the teacher said, you know, the liver really deserves its own national holiday because the liver decides, really, I thought that was the best. I've used that before. The liver decides absolutely everything. So the liver decides if we need energy and if the food we eat goes right into the bloodstream for energy. The liver decides if it's going to store some of this sugar, right? Because everything's converted to sugar in the body, if we should store it in the muscles. And then if we don't need immediate energy and we don't need it stored in the muscles for future energy, then it just gets stored as fats. So that's basically what the liver does. And the liver it recognizes all of that. And, you know, right, we are a protein society. We talked about snacking, then that trifecta, right? The fiber, the fat, and the protein to keep everything even. This is what you get in this blondie, believe it or not.
Wow, this is great. This is great. And besides the chickpea blondie, you've got some other ideas. With the chickpea blondie though, I think can you just run through did you run through the recipe for that, and maybe, you know, I mean, how long does that take? It sounds like it's going to take forever if we've got to do the oat flour and do all this. I mean, you know, I feel like in some cases when we eat healthy, we got to go back in time and, you know, sort of make our own bread, you know, so.
It's really not that. You know, this comes together in a food processor. Most people seem to have that because it really mashes up the chickpeas. If you don't have a food processor, you can put a little elbow grease in. But it probably takes 10 minutes to put together. If you just give everything together and it all gets dumped in the food processor other than the chips, and you blend it all together and then put it in a bowl, and then you fold the chips in, and then it bakes untouched for 30 minutes. So oat flour, if you put oat flour, you measure it and put it in your blender and buzz it, it's really done in seconds. So I would say prep on this is 10 minutes at the most if you're gathering all your ingredients, even if you want to make oat flour. And then it bakes in the oven untouched. You don't have to watch it. You check it, let it cool. And these also freeze really well. So you can put them into tiny pieces and wrap them up. And if ever you want just a tiny little bite of something sweet, they freeze really, really well also.
Cool, cool. So besides the chickpea blondies, what else you got for us?
I am also sharing a recipe for a fruit crisp. And we are now, like one of my daughters just said to me, I can't wait for the berries. I'm so tired of eating apples and bananas, you know, all that winter fruit. But, you know, on Long Island, strawberries are going to be coming out soon, and we're getting into all those beautiful fruits. This also works really well with apples. So the way I printed out the recipe, or we'll be sharing it, is you can use any fruit that you like in any season. So it's roughly like 5 to 7 cups of fruit, whether you're cutting up apples or you're slicing up peaches or plums or you're throwing in berries. Some vanilla. I have here arrowroot. I have also made this without it. You could put a little flour in. People use a little cornstarch and some salt, and that's in the filling, and it just kind of thickens it a little bit. But if you don't have it, I have also made fruit crisps without the flour or the arrowroot, and it works out just fine.
And the fruit itself, do we cut those like small, like little niblet size, or do we is that more like a little bit of chunky, or what's the best way to do it?
Think about the size of a berry, right? So the size of a raspberry or a blackberry, or you know, a little cluster of blueberries. So that size, so you're not going to cut your berries. Maybe your strawberry you would cut in half. Apples, peaches, plums, I would just slice really, really thin. Apples, you can be a little bit chunkier as well. It's really, there's no science to that. It's whatever you're in the mood to do, to tell you the truth. I happen to like the apples and the stone fruit sliced very thin, and the berries, I don't cut, I just mix them all together. But that's basically your filling. And then for the topping, again, it's rolled oats. I have here, you can use butter. I like to look for pasture-raised or grass-fed butter, which is now easy to find in the supermarket. It's just healthier. It's not the factory farmed animals. You can use coconut oil. And then here you're throwing in some almond flour as well. And in the recipe, I have coconut sugar, which is just a healthier version. Sugar is still not healthy, but it's less refined. Let's put it that way. But I also wrote maple crystals, because sometimes in the store, you will see either maple sugar or maple crystals, and that's dehydrated maple syrup. It's a little more expensive. We used it a lot in culinary school, and I really liked it. It had a very mild maple flavor. It's just not always easy to find, but if somebody ever saw it, it's also a great alternative. They still have some nutrients in it, and it's not bleached and uber refined, and just a better form for you.
So for if you're still sort of, you know, like you really want to do this, but then you don't have the coconut sugar or the maple crystals, and you want to use some brown sugar, or you want to use some regular sugar, would it be the same amount in terms of ingredients?
Same amount as far as ingredients. Yeah, the proportions are the same.
Just for those people who are sort of halfway there, but they're not quite all the way there.
Right. Well, the one thing I like to do with these recipes, and I didn't do, you know, because we're doing it from a healthier perspective,
Right.
what I really like to do is introduce people to some of the healthy ingredients that are still available in regular grocery stores.
Right.
But if you only have flour, use flour. If you only have sugar, use sugar. And again, like in the topping of this crisp, I have a half a cup of coconut sugar. Use less. It doesn't have to be that sweet.
Right.
So it's all a matter of taste. Throw in a quarter cup, throw in a couple of tablespoons. See how it tastes to you. Fruit, especially in the summer, is naturally sweet. So you may not need as much sugar in the topping. So
right. And one of the things I noticed in the store, and they had an article about it, is that all the healthy food sections, you know, while a lot of the food sections are empty, the healthy food sections still have a lot of food in them. So this is an opportunity. If you're worried, eat healthy. You know, you can still get the healthier stuff.
Exactly. You know, there are nuts in there if people want to be, you know, want to throw some nuts. If you have a nut allergy, leave them out. Also, on the recipe that we posted, that we will post. On the bottom, I wrote different fruits and different flavors. So play around with your spices. Throw cinnamon in, or allspice, or nutmeg. Grated citrus zest makes everything pop, especially berries. Throw in some grated fresh ginger. Almond extract is strong, but it's really great with stone fruit. So I would just use a little less almond extract, but it's really nice with like the peaches and the plums.
Mm.
Throw in some dried raisins or apricots or cranberries if you like. So this is an anything goes fruit crisp, and it could go throughout the season all year long. Use apples and pears and cranberries in the fall.
Oh my.
Yeah. Oh my. You know, think fall, Thanksgiving, you know, the berries in the summer, the stone fruits. I wouldn't do melons. I wouldn't do pineapples.
Right.
But you can mix it up to whatever you have and whatever you like.
Right. Great. And you've got all these flavor profiles. See, these flavor profiles. I like that. And I love the idea of pitted cherries. Oh my goodness, that sounds so good.
Cherries.
Wow, this is great. So you've got us dealing with some wonderfully good foods to deal with stress. So we wind up with great desserts, and I think there's probably a whole bunch of them as well. On your website, Nancy, do you do you have an area where you talk about desserts as well on your website?
I'm going to post the recipes for the desserts that we do today. So on my website, on the center page, then you can just click and I just have all the recipes there. I have not posted any of my little notes as far as desserts, or we did a whole sweet thing, I think, a few weeks ago, right? Satisfying your sweet tooth, and we got more into healthy thing. But I could easily do a little recap and post that as well, so people can.
And I've loaded these up to the Google Drive, so we'll post these on the Center for Wellbeing page as well. But we've got a few minutes, so I figured we'd open it up to a couple of questions, if there are any questions from any of the folks that are joining us. But I just want to say that I continue to be bowed over by how many options there are, and really what the opportunity is to go ahead and substitute, you know, really good stuff that really you wouldn't even think about, like, you know, a chickpea blondie. You know, I'm thinking like chickpeas, like, you know, put them in the oven and throw some harissa on them or something like that. But here you've got them in a dessert, so I love that. I love that idea.
Thanks. Yeah, you always think about chickpeas as more of a savory dish, and here you can sweeten it up. You know,
Right.
I was also looking at a recipe for black bean brownies. You know, you'll see stuff like that around. So I think people just don't understand that you can enjoy your dessert. And when we're stressed, I know, you know, my daughters are all here, we're here, and that sweet makes you feel good, but you don't have to go off the rails.
Right. Well, you know, I also love hummus too, but I don't put sugar in it. So,
Right.
but here you go. So let's open it up for any questions. Does anyone want to ask a question of Nancy while she's here? And if you do, I invite you to open up your microphone and just raise your voice. If you don't want to be on camera, just turn off your video. And Patty, it looks like you're ready to ask a question.
I don't really have a question, but I'm looking forward to those two recipes. The black bean brownie sounds good to me too. But my little treat is I take a can of chickpeas and I put a little olive oil and salt and garlic powder in the oven and roast them till they're crispy. So that's my little snack instead of having a chip or something. I really love the chickpeas.
Yeah, they're my favorite. We roast them all the time. I think we even included a recipe a couple weeks back, and you mix up your spices, and again, it gives you that crunch, and you get your fiber and your protein. So it's great, Patty. I'm glad you're doing that.
Yeah, I like crunch too.
Yeah.
Right, great.
And remember, even if, you know, you're preparing, say, these desserts for somebody else or watching your sugar, like, play around with the sweetness. There's so much natural sweetness in fruit, especially, that you could easily adapt it based on your individual needs. It doesn't have to be as sugar laden as maybe the recipes are listed.
That's great. The use of cinnamon as well as some of the vanilla extract as a part of that recipe, it really does sound wonderful. One of the things that I like as a dessert, I know this sounds a little weird, but I'll say it anyway, is I like to have Brussels sprouts as believe it or not. And what I do with the Brussels sprouts is I put them in the pan and I brown them first with garlic, and then I throw them into the oven for about 20-25 minutes until they're really brown and very soft, and they're also sweet. So good. So
Right, that caramelization, right?
right, they caramelize.
Yeah, the sweetness. That
Yeah.
sounds delicious as
Yeah,
well.
and I'm going to have to get back to you on those caramelized onions. I think Patty did caramelized onions one day. I did. I tried. I really tried. I guess I'm not patient enough.
Patience.
I couldn't make them caramelized in the oven long enough. I think Phil did the caramelized onions one week, and he got them going. I don't know what. Maybe I'm just impatient there, Phil.
I had the toaster oven, no less, going, and I made the caramelized oven and roasted them in there, and they caramelized. You know, I was pleasantly surprised. I'd like to add something. We were talking, or Nancy was discussing scientific eating or so. And one thing she mentioned in an earlier segment was the reduction of sugar and how an individual's taste buds will change. I made a dish with certain spices, and those taste buds, or those spices, just popped. And it was about 10 days, like you had said in an earlier segment. It was very impressive. So when I had my caramelized onions, those taste buds are really popping.
Oh, that's great.
I'm so glad you shared that, because right, we had talked earlier, it takes 10 days to change that palate, and then all of a sudden you notice the subtle nuances of everything else. So I'm so glad you gave that a try, Phil. That's fantastic to hear. It really works.
It really does.
That's great. That's excellent. So I'm very excited about going to town and literally and picking up some of the ingredients that we have here, so I can try some of this chickpea blondie. I'll be the hero in the house.
You certainly will. I'm dying to hear the result. I was thinking too, Phil, we were talking too about fruit and grilling fruit. Like even when we talked about grilling a couple of weeks ago, you know, slicing a peach and getting it in the pit and just grilling it for a couple of seconds on the grill will bring out the sweetness. If anybody wanted to make that fruit crisp with, you could use your grilled fruit and then throw it in, and it will just add another dimension of flavor to it without any added sugar. So even Patty, you get a little of that caramelization on a fruit, you'll get the sweetness, and then maybe cut back on the maple sugar or whatever else. And so play around it. That's what I really encourage everybody to do. Make it your own.
And Phil, I'm going to have to get a hold of you, or because clearly you're a better man than I am, Phil. I'm not doing something right with my caramelized onions. I need help.
I've ventured out of my comfort zone on trying new cooking things. The other day I wanted sushi, and I made some, and I had to come up with a creative way because I ran out of. I really didn't want to have like soy sauce as to dip the sushi in. So I made a particular sauce, but something I wasn't thinking of, that I had in the refrigerator. Just mixed it together, came out great. But attending these classes really has brought me to a level outside my normal comfort zone, and I've been thinking outside the box.
Isn't it great feeling a little adventurous?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, getting permission to be adventurous. I love that.
I love
Yeah.
it.
I've been missing going out for Indian food, so I started making like this dal soup. It hasn't come out the same twice, but it's split yellow peas, and I've been making it in my crock pot. And yeah, just a whole bunch of Indian spices, and it really has been coming out good. And if you don't feel like eating anything else but that soup, you have a full meal because it has vegetables in it, it has the beans for protein, and it's very satisfying.
That sounds fantastic.
The only problem I have is I keep trying to make roti, which is really an easy flat bread, but the dough hasn't been right yet, so I made roti pancakes instead of the roti. So I'm still working on that.
Practice makes perfect, I think. You just have to keep experimenting.
Taste was good. Yeah.
So Nancy, we're at about the end here. What do you got for us for next week? Do you think are we going back to savory again, or we're looking at something you're going to think about it? Maybe farm fresh. I mean, I don't know. We've kind of hit the whole spectrum here.
I
What
think
do you
we
think?
have.
Should we get into ethnic varieties? Maybe Indian or Greek or
We could.
Italian, or kind of move that way, or what do you think?
We can start doing different flavor profiles. So you're
I
right.
love that.
We touch upon Asian a lot because it's very easy to do sauces and dressings, but Patty, you've given a little inspiration with some Indian, so we could do that. As the summer progresses, I was thinking we could always do different fruity mocktails, and if anybody chooses to imbibe, they can then add a liquor of their choice if they wanted to make a cocktail. But mocktails are always a fun thing people are looking to experiment with in the summer. And again, any interest, I love feedback. So if anybody really wants to learn something, we'll go.
And then I know as we start hitting the summer and summer months ahead, some folks are going to want to go ahead and take some time off. So you and I will talk about just what that might look like, so that we can have people actually have the time to go ahead and try out all the recipes, because you've been incredibly generous with your time, Nancy. And I just want to, again, thank you so much for what you do. And again, this is all a service, a wonderful service to the community. And, we really, really appreciate you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And thank you everybody for joining. I love this. I look forward to it every week. It really is a highlight of my week. So I've been enjoying it. So thank you for inviting me. It's
You're
perfect.
welcome. And if
Me
people
too.
want to
Thank
find
you.
out more, what's the website, Nancy?
It's nancysnourishingkitchen.com is the website.
Great, fantastic. And we thank you very much again. And we're going to be signing off, and we'll see you next week. All right.
Everybody,
Bye,
thank you.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.